Right now on Morning News Now, the race for the White House kicking into high gear with Vice President Kamala Harris criticizing former President Donald Trump over a comment he made about protecting women, quote, whether they liked it or not.
The majority of Americans believe that women are intelligent enough and should have and be respected for their agency to make decisions for themselves about what is in their best interest and not have their government, and certainly not Donald Trump, telling them what to do.
Meanwhile, tens of millions of ballots have already been cast by early voters. We, of course, have team coverage for you. Developing overnight, a violent exchange in the Middle East. In Israel, several people killed in back-to-back attacks fired from Lebanon. This as Israeli forces target northern Gaza's last functioning hospital. We will bring you the latest. Plus, feeling the heat, you heard that right. It's the 1st of November, but it's feeling more like the 4th of July for a lot of the country. How much longer will the summer-like temperatures last? We are tracking the highs as we head into the weekend. And he's flipping the script against all odds. Longtime Broadway star Aaron Lazar taking on a new role as a motivational speaker and shining a spotlight on a debilitating disease after his diagnosis. Our own Joe shares their conversation about his battle with ALS and how he's staying positive with a little help from his on-stage friends. Love a Friday flipping the script.
Exactly, and like dozens of Broadway stars who are rallying to help him out and raise money for ALS.
Amazing.
It's a great conversation. Good to have you with us on this Friday. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We are going to get started this Friday with the latest, of course, in the race for the White House, the final sprint to Election Day. With just 4 days to go, both candidates are expected to crisscross the country this weekend in a last-ditch dash to reel in undecided voters in those all-important battleground states.
Yesterday, former President Donald Trump campaigned in Arizona and Nevada, where he focused on one of his key issues, immigration. Mr. Trump again courted controversy by using violent imagery to suggest that his Republican rival, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, should be targeted.
But the reason she couldn't stand me is that she always wanted to go to war with people. I don't want to go to war. She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face.
Also campaigning in Nevada was his rival, Vice President Kamala Harris. She was joined by singer Jennifer Lopez in Las Vegas. The appearance of the Puerto Rican star comes nearly a week after comedian Tony Hinchcliffe made that offensive joke about Puerto Rico at a Trump rally in New York. The vice president urged her supporters to turn their back on Mr. Trump's rhetoric. Joining us now for a closer look at all this, NBC News correspondent Dasha Burns, who's following the Trump campaign, and White House correspondent Monica Alba, who's watching the Harris campaign. Good morning to both of you. Dasha, let's start right there. Tell us a little more about this personal attack on Liz Cheney, and she's now responding, right?
Yeah, Joe, good morning. We just got a response from Liz Cheney just moments ago. Let me just read to you what she said. She posted on X saying, "This is how dictators destroy free nations. They threaten those who speak against them with death. We cannot entrust our country and our freedom to a petty, vindictive, cruel, unstable man who wants to be a tyrant," with the hashtag "women will not be silenced," hashtag vote Kamala. Now, this, of course, Joe, does come in the context of this massive gender gap that we've been seeing between the two campaigns. Republican allies are defending these comments, saying, yeah, maybe he chose his words poorly, but he was trying to make a point about war hawks and warmongering. Democrats, of course, with Liz Cheney here saying this is an unacceptable violent rhetoric. Joe.
Monica, let's bring you in here. We mentioned this a second ago. We saw Vice President Harris seize on 2 big controversies coming out of the Trump campaign. First is the issue of Latino voters and that joke about Puerto Rico. We just mentioned that appearance by Jennifer Lopez. The second now is Mr. Trump's comment about protecting women, where he said whether they like it or not. Talk to us about how she's pushing back on those 2 issues and using them in her campaign.
Yeah, the vice president brought that up repeatedly yesterday, and she's certainly going to continue to lean into that message. And this is about trying to amplify her closing argument, which is not just to focus on the former president's rhetoric, but to think about, she says, his actions, what he has promised to do if he is reelected and is back in the White House, and what he would do when it comes to reproductive freedom, or what he would do when it comes to health care and these major issues. And she tried to lay that out yesterday. Here's a little more of what she had to say to our own colleague Yamiche Alcindor.
His latest comment is just the most recent in a series of examples that we have seen from him in his words and deeds about how he devalues the ability of women to have the choice and the freedom to make decisions about their own body.
And I have to tell you, Savannah and Joe, the Harris campaign is already also seizing on those comments that the former president made about former Congresswoman Liz Cheney last night. They're amplifying that this morning, and I think you can expect the vice president and all of her surrogates to lean into that as well, again, when it comes to trying to warn about what the former president is saying he would do to some of his critics and detractors if he's back in the White House.
Dasha, let's talk about some of the other key moments from Mr. Trump's rallies in Nevada and Arizona yesterday. We know immigration is a huge part of his campaign in any state, but especially with one of those being a border state. He really did lean into that, right?
Yeah, look, Joe, the more you listen to him in these closing days, the more it's becoming clear that he really does believe that immigration is the key issue in this race. That's what's going to galvanize voters, including Latino voters, which might sound counterintuitive, but a lot of his Latino supporters do agree with his immigration policy. And guys, the other piece that we've been seeing over the last 24 hours or so is he's been talking about what a future Trump administration might look like. He said last night that he wants RFK Jr. to come in and on the issue of health, quote, do whatever he wants, including potentially take a look at vaccines, which, of course, RFK Jr. has made a name for himself as a vaccine skeptic. He also said that he wants Elon Musk to come in and slash the federal budget, potentially as much as $2 trillion a year, which of course would have massive ripple effects. So just a glimpse of the kinds of folks that he wants to bring into his administration and what he wants them to tackle, guys.
And Monica, we understand Harris, for her part, is heading back to Wisconsin later today. What can we expect there? And what do we think we'll see over the weekend, final weekend before the election?
And she's going to be visiting a union hall today in Wisconsin, and then she's going to be holding a couple of those get out the vote rallies like we've seen the last couple of days to amplify that economic message. And then this weekend, she is going to be traveling tomorrow to Atlanta, Georgia, Charlotte, North Carolina, so those two critical states. And then Sunday, she's going to spend almost the entirety of the day in Michigan with some stops in Detroit, and she's going to close out her campaign on Monday with at least 4 stops in all important Pennsylvania. So really just trying to hit all these final battlegrounds in somewhat of a blitz in these closing hours, Savannah and Joe.
All right, Dasha and Monica, thank you both.
Well, the legal battle over billionaire Elon Musk's lottery-style giveaway tied to the election is heating up. He was supposed to show up in a Pennsylvania court to respond to a lawsuit filed by the Philadelphia district attorney, who's arguing Musk and his pro-Trump super PAC are running what amounts to an illegal lottery. But his lawyers had other ideas. They're trying to get the case moved to federal court. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett has the details.
Musk, a no-show in court despite an order from the judge, as his legal team now tries to fend off a civil suit brought by Philadelphia's Democratic DA, which accuses the tech billionaire and his pro-Trump super PAC of operating an unlawful lottery.
This is a case that involves state law issues.
Lawyers for Musk fighting back, successfully getting the case put on ice for now by filing paperwork to move it over to federal court. Musk under scrutiny for potentially interfering with the federal election, since announcing he'd randomly award prize money on a daily basis to swing state voters who sign a pledge in favor of First and Second Amendment rights.
If you already believe in the Constitution, you're just signing something you already believe, and you can win $1 million.
The Justice Department sending a warning letter last week that the giveaway could be illegal, as federal law prohibits paying people to register to vote. But no criminal charges have been filed.
Take over, Eli, just take over.
This, as Musk remains one of former President Trump's most visible and energetic supporters this election.
I think this election, I think it's the most important election of our lifetime.
Frequently sharing pro-Trump content with his 200 million plus followers on X. And researchers say since taking the reins of what was formerly Twitter, he's made changes that's resulted in more far-right content being amplified. His PAC now running an aggressive get-out-the-vote operation. Tonight, his swing state sweepstakes climbing to $13 million winners and counting. Laura Jarrett, NBC News.
As millions of Americans get ready to cast their ballots, some are preparing to do so from behind bars. Now, most states ban convicted felons from voting, but people who are in jail and awaiting trial still have the right to vote. And with the presidential candidates looking for every last vote they can get, activists in swing states like Pennsylvania are working to mobilize this often overlooked group. NBC News Washington correspondent Michelle Sindor was given rare access inside the Allegheny County Jail in Pittsburgh to see how prisoners' votes could make a difference in this incredibly tight race.
With just days to go until Election Day, these workers are organizing the ballots of an often forgotten voting bloc, incarcerated Americans.
For you, Chuck.
The Allegheny County Jail in Pittsburgh is one of a number of correctional facilities making sure people behind bars get the opportunity to vote.
There are definitely individuals who probably have never voted before, so we want to make sure that they know who the candidates are and, how to take action to provide their voice.
In Pennsylvania, as in most states, incarcerated people who are awaiting trial or serving time for a misdemeanor can vote, though a handful of states block anyone charged with election-related crimes. Gerald Conklin, who is charged with a probation violation, knows every ballot is important in this battleground state.
My one vote may be the deciding factor who gets the presidency.
He is one of about 23,000 people in jails across Pennsylvania, a state President Biden won in 2020 by just 80,000 votes. This year, polls show another incredibly tight presidential race, with the Keystone State a contest neither candidate can likely afford to lose. A recent voluntary poll by criminal justice advocate the Marshall Project found roughly half of 54,000 people surveyed in jails and prisons would vote for former President Donald Trump.
Most of the guys on the block are wanting President Trump. I mean, there's a couple that's talked about Kamala Harris.
I'm still part of the community, even though I'm behind these walls.
Angela Smith has been at this facility for almost a year, serving time for a misdemeanor DUI. A registered Republican for more than 20 years, she's planning to vote for Trump.
I just feel that they pulled up a lot of stuff on him that they could pull that up on anybody if they wanted to. I can relate to him. I can relate to what he's going through.
James McClinton, who is here on a probation violation and other pending charges, would not share who he's voting for.
If you vote for a certain person, then you might not be in this situation, or it might make, might not have to be here as long.
Most states ban convicted felons from voting while in custody, but some 450,000 people who are in jail awaiting trial do have the right to vote. The legal and logistical hurdles make it difficult, sometimes impossible. At least 9 states and D.C. recently enacted laws to improve voting access, making it easier to register and vote by mail or in person. And this year, Colorado became the first state to require voting services in its jails and detention centers.
Just because we're in jail doesn't mean that we still don't have rights, that we should be able to vote. We made a mistake. Everybody else is just one mistake from being where we're at.
Michelle Sindor, NBC News, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Well, the unseasonably warm weather that had people trick-or-treating in shorts isn't leaving the Northeast just yet. For more details on what we can expect for the weekend, let's get your morning news now. Weather.
Hey, meteorologist Michelle Grossman is here. I can't remember a Halloween like this one in a long time, if ever.
I know, it was crazy. I drove in about 1:30. Cute little costumes, no signs of sweaters, coats. Yeah. And we're going to keep it warm today, actually. We have one more day before we kind of get back to normal. So this is what today looks like. We have a cold front moving through. That's going to bring maybe a sprinkle, a light shower. Unfortunately, we're not going to get a whole lot of rain with this. We need it in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, New England, but we're not going to get that. It's going to move through, and then it's going to usher in some cooler air, more seasonal temperatures. So as you're out and about on Saturday, Sunday, in these parts of the country, the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, New England, we're going to see temperatures in the 40s and 50s. So today, once again, record highs, especially in parts of the Northeast, parts of New England, but much cooler behind there. Strong storms in parts of the Southern Plains. We're going to really ramp up that threat as we head towards Saturday. And in the Pacific Northwest, we're watching some heavy rain. We could see some rain where where you're seeing the green, those darker colors, the reds, the oranges, the yellows. And then you notice some blue, some white. That is mountain snow, and that's going to move off to the east as we head towards Saturday. So as we near the weekend here, we're kicking off the weekend with severe storms in the middle of the country, especially in western Texas. We could see some really large hail, 2 inches or greater. The chance of tornadoes, heavy rainfall, that's going to lead to some flooding. So we're going to watch that very closely. But this rain extends into the central plains. Much cooler along the east coast. Again, temperatures back near normal into the 50s. And then watch that rain and snow in the west moving into the Intermountain West. We're going to see some accumulating snow there, especially on Sunday in the Rockies, where you see that white. That is the highest amounts of snow expected. But notice all this wet weather in the middle of the country, from the northern plains to the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, into the central plains, the southern plains. Again, where you see these brighter colors, that's where we're expecting the heavier rain. Could see some thunderstorms, too, especially in the southern plains. And then more warm throughout the southeast on Sunday, and then more seasonal still on Sunday before we actually warm it back up as we head towards next week. So temperatures today, 78 degrees still in New York City. That's 20 degrees above normal on November 1st. Richmond, 80 degrees, 81 in Raleigh. There's that cold front that's going to bring just a little bit of rain. You don't really need the umbrella, maybe just a hood if that, because we may just see some sprinkles in spots. Behind that, we're looking at temperatures at average or below average. So Minneapolis, 3 degrees below what is typical for this time of year. 46 today, 53 in Detroit, 61 in St. Louis. Then we're going to build that warmth back in. That's going to bring the threat or enhance the risk for those severe storms in the southern plains. But notice all these temperatures back above normal in the middle of the country. Minneapolis, 57. Big difference from today. We're going to add on about 11 degrees, 60 in Omaha, Chicago, 60 degrees, 67 in St. Louis. And look at all those 70s and 80s in portions of the Tennessee Valley into the southeast. Now, notice New York City as we go through early next week. Sunday, there's your average temperature, 57 degrees, 60 on Monday. So still feeling right around normal. It's typical for November. Then we're back into the 70s by Tuesday. Same story in Pittsburgh. Monday, 73. Tuesday, near 80 degrees. So we continue that roller coaster ride throughout this fall, and we're going to continue that throughout next week as well. We have an enhanced risk for fire danger. It is so dry. We need that water. We need the fresh water falling from the sky. We're not going to see it. Again, could see a few sprinkles. That's about it. 38 million people under the risk for fire danger, because we're going to see those winds gusting with that cold front moving through. Low humidity, dry fuels. It's going to increase the risk for that fire danger. There's that cold front today, those early showers. A few storms could develop near the central Gulf Coast, but it really enhances tomorrow. So we tap into that warm air that I showed you. In the middle of the country, we're looking at severe storms forming in West Texas during the afternoon to evening hours. Could see some tornadoes with any of these storms. And then we're going to see those storm chances extending north into Kansas. And then that rain really expands on Sunday. So the middle of the country, you need your umbrella if you do have Sunday plans, from really the Great Lakes all the way to the south central states.
Wow. All right. Thanks, Michelle.
Sure.
Much more to come here on Morning News. Now, later this hour, pressure and pushback over returning to the office. More companies making their employees come in after years of working from home, while many say they'd rather quit.
But first, after the break, Microsoft on a mission to track down disinformation ahead of the election. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. U.S. intelligence officials say that in the final days of the campaign, disinformation from foreign adversaries like Russia, China, and Iran is popping up at an alarming rate. Microsoft is one of the companies at the forefront of the effort to detect these fake videos and stories and find out where they're coming from. NBC News correspondent Stephanie Goss got to see Microsoft's team in action.
Let's see what we have here.
The video is alarming. Ballots being ripped up in battleground Pennsylvania. Except the federal government says it's fake, created by Russia. The Microsoft Threat Analysis Center in New York City clocked this video early on.
I track the way hostile nation states are using the internet to manipulate opinions.
Information gathered here is shared with Microsoft's clients and, in part, published publicly. The ballot video has all the hallmarks, these analysts say, of an actor they have been tracking for a year. Storm 1516. They showed us another totally fabricated story that dropped in September, falsely claiming Kamala Harris killed an endangered rhino in Zambia.
Storm 1516 uses routinely a three-step process to launder its disinformation into Western audiences.
A cheaply made video picked up by a seemingly legit news site and then pushed onto social media. This wild story didn't go far.
It's a volume game. And with every fake story, they're getting a little better
Of the state actors, would you say the Russians are the savviest?
Absolutely.
But in the build-up to the election, Russia is not alone. The team, led by former FBI special agent and NBC contributor Clint Watts, has been tracking Iran and China as well. What are you looking for in these very critical moments?
I think the biggest thing is a shift from influencing around candidates one way or another to the conduct of the election, so undermining trust.
During a contentious election, the lies, he says, can spread further, faster.
When emotions are high, people need to slow down for a second, and really look at the information.
And while Americans are savvier, some of the misinformation sticks.
When does it cross a threshold where it's reached so many people that it becomes concerning?
When you start to see these narratives being repeated verbatim by elected officials.
Have you heard that?
Yes.
Their advice, pay attention, be skeptical, because the misinformation will keep coming. Lots of it. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News, New York.
Such an important reminder there as you're on social media in the days leading up to the election. Well, let's turn now to the Middle East, where 7 Israelis have been killed in back-to-back missile strikes fired from Lebanon into northern Israel, according to officials. This marks the deadliest attack on Israel since its military invaded southern Lebanon earlier this month.
Israel's two-front war continues, not only fighting Hezbollah forces in Lebanon, but also battling Hamas, most recently striking a hospital in northern Gaza. All this comes as 2 senior U.S. diplomats were in the region to push for ceasefires on both fronts. They're hoping to wind down the conflict in the Middle East in the final months of the Biden administration.
NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us from Tel Aviv with the latest here. Raf, good morning. So tell us more about this attack on Israel and how Israelis are responding.
Savannah, good morning. Yesterday was the bloodiest day in Israel for several months, and it's a reminder that while Israel is absolutely hammering southern Lebanon, Hezbollah is still able to continue rocket fire into the north of this country. So this was 2 separate incidents. The first happened earlier in the day, right up against the border, a rocket falling in an orchard, and it killed 4 Thai workers from Thailand who were working on the agricultural site there, as well as 1 Israeli farmer. There are questions about whether those workers should have been in that orchard so close to the border while fighting was continuing. And then a mother and son, Palestinians with Israeli citizenship who were living near Haifa, were killed later in the day by another rocket. Israel has been carrying out very intense airstrikes in southern Lebanon, but also giving evacuation orders for the entire city of Baalbek in the east near the Syrian border, saying that it is targeting Hezbollah compounds there. Yesterday, the Lebanese health ministry said an ambulance was struck by Israeli bombing, killing a paramedic and wounding several others. Guys.
Raf, obviously, ceasefire has been elusive. How could these developments impact the new ceasefire talks that senior-level U.S. diplomats are pushing for in Israel just yesterday?
Yeah, Joe, so earlier this week, there seemed to be a lot of momentum, a lot of optimism towards a potential ceasefire to end the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. I got to tell you, that optimism seems to have faded over the last 72 hours or so. The 2 senior American officials who were here, Brett McGurk, Amos Hochstein, they met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem, and the hope was that they were going to go from here to Lebanon with the draft of an agreement. Instead, they appear to have returned to Washington. That is being taken as a sign that there wasn't enough progress to head back to Beirut. The Lebanese prime minister earlier this week was saying he was hopeful that a ceasefire could be potentially just days away. He is now sounding very pessimistic, and he says the intensity of the Israeli bombing indicates that Israel at this stage is not interested in an agreement. Guys.
Raf, also, it was almost a week ago that Israel hit those military targets in Iran. That was in retaliation for those Iranian strikes inside Israel. Well, now Israeli intelligence is suggesting that Iran is preparing to attack Israel again in the coming days, maybe even before the U.S. presidential election early next week. What more do we know at this time?
So we have seen a very marked shift in the rhetoric coming from Iran. Saturday morning, as the smoke was still clearing from that Israeli attack, Iran was really downplaying what happened, saying small-scale strike, our air defenses largely held it off. But actually, in the days since, as it became clear that 4 Iranian soldiers were killed, that a number of sensitive military bases across the country were struck, Iran is now making clear that it intends to retaliate. The commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps saying that retaliation is inevitable at this stage. And the question is one that we've been asking at different times throughout the year. When, how, what scale will Iran retaliate? One of the key questions is, might this Iranian retaliation come before Election Day? If so, that has the potential to send oil prices spiking back up again. That could, potentially mean higher prices at the pump as American voters are heading to the polls. It could have major geopolitical effects. One thing I will say, guys, as the Iranians make their decision, they are conscious they are much more vulnerable to Israeli strikes now because that wave of Israeli attacks on Friday destroyed a whole lot of their air defenses. So whatever they do, they have to anticipate that Israel will strike back. Guys.
Thank you, Raf, very much for your reporting here.
More international headlines now. U.S. officials say they expect North Korean troops to begin fighting against Ukraine in the coming days.
NBC's Matt Bodner joins us with that and more. Hey, Matt, good morning.
Savannah, Joe, good morning. The United States yesterday said that 8,000 North Korean troops are now in positions near the Ukrainian border, and they are expected to join the fight in the coming days. NATO has called this development a serious escalation, but according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Western actions do not match Western rhetoric. He said there has been zero meaningful reaction by NATO and also South Korea, and that the West is failing a test put forth by Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un. Zelensky argued that if the West fails to respond, North Korea will send more troops. Moving along now to Spain, where search and rescue efforts continue in Valencia region following Wednesday's catastrophic flash flooding. The death toll has risen to at least 158 people, and no one has any idea how many are missing. The number of those killed in the flood is expected to increase. Rescue crews are now searching for bodies in the massive pileups of cars and flooded buildings. These floods, for the record, are the worst natural disaster Europe has seen in years. We'll wrap up this hour, though, with some good news. London police have arrested the man responsible for last week's theft of some 24 tons of artisanal cheddar cheese. The assailant is a 63-year-old man, and he managed to procure the cheese by falsely presenting himself as a French wholesaler to one of Britain's largest cheese distributors. The 24 tons of cheese has a market value of almost $400,000 US. The man responsible now faces charges of fraud and handling stolen goods. Back to you guys.
Whew, thank goodness. I was losing sleep over that one.
Artisanal cheddar. I bet that's great, though.
Do you think, though, when he took his mugshot, they said, say
Get
cheese?
out of here. Matt, thank you very much.
See you guys.
Coming up, a high-profile trial is set to begin today. It's for a former Marine sergeant accused in the chokehold death of a homeless man on the New York subway.
When we come back, we're going to break down the charges against him ahead of opening statements today. This is Morning News Now. Welcome back. Opening statements in the trial against former Marine Sergeant Daniel Penny are set to begin in Manhattan today.
Penny is accused of fatally choking Jordan Neely, a homeless man on a New York City subway last year. He's facing charges of second-degree manslaughter and negligent homicide. Penny has pleaded not guilty and argues he was acting to protect others.
NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos joins us now with a closer look at this. Danny, good morning. So this is a case that provoked strong reactions by a lot of different people, touches on a lot of sensitive issues, race, mental illness. At its heart is whether Penny's actions were justified to protect fellow passengers or whether his actions went well beyond that. What does the prosecution have to prove to get a guilty verdict here?
The prosecution has the burden here to prove, first, that Penny created this unjustifiable risk, but second, that he was aware of that risk and disregarded it. And third, and this is where they may run into trouble, it has to be not a close call, but a gross deviation from what people would think was reasonable. So if it's a close call, that close call goes to the defendant. And the defendant's already signaled that they're going to call experts in use of force to say that the hold that was applied by Penny and what he was taught in the Marines was something that was non-lethal, that it would have only at most cut off one side or the other of the neck and not compressed both sides to cause death. If you can get a battle of the experts going, then you're looking at 50-50, and almost by definition, that's not beyond a reasonable doubt. So if they have those experts lined up, that's a good thing for the defense.
Penny's defense is also arguing that a conviction here would make people less likely to step in and protect one another in similar situations. If you can remind us of what this kind of protection element that they're arguing is here, and then tell us, is there anything that you've seen similar with an argument like that?
So we all have a privilege to defend ourselves against force, but that force has to be equal or commensurate with the force applied against us. So if somebody comes at me with a nail clipper, I can't return with a firearm. You have to equal force with force. And along with that self-defense is the idea that you can defend others from harm, but your use of force must always be reasonable. Reasonable is the magic word here. The defense has already signaled that they may introduce evidence that Cam Neely, in this case, was possibly threatening maybe a mother and a child in her stroller. Those are the kinds of pieces of evidence that will go a long way for the defense. Of course, the prosecution is going to introduce evidence that Neely posed no threat, that he was just noisy, and there was no need to apply this, what they call a chokehold. So really a lot's going to come down to what other witnesses say and what the use of force experts say in this case.
Danny, let's talk about jury selection for this trial. It took about 2 weeks, got contentious at times, with Penny's defense team denying they were striking out people of color without good reasons. It's according to reporting from the New York Times. So 8 members of the jury are reportedly white. Real quick, in cases like this one, what's the impact of the demographic makeup of the jury?
Here's the general rule with jury selection. If you have peremptory challenges, these are like magic challenges. You can strike a juror for any reason in the world, except, and there's a narrow exception, you can't use it to exclude jurors on the basis of race. And that cuts both ways. The prosecution can't exclude black jurors, and the defense can't exclude white jurors. It cuts both ways. It's called a Batson challenge. If the prosecution or the defense thinks that's going on, then they can force the other side to articulate their reasons for striking those jurors. So this is a case where jury selection is going to be key. It's so unique because there's probably nothing so unique in the world as a New York City strap hanger or someone who rides the subway. And of course, this case also has very, very critical racial issues involved as well, as you've discussed. So jury selection in this case is arguably everything. But at the same time, I can tell you that jury selection is a form of astrology. You really never know what you're getting because you're basing it all on these preconceived notions that are usually outdated and completely antiquated and completely inappropriate. And so ultimately, you have to go with the feeling you get from each juror and not base it on old-fashioned ideas about how particular jurors might vote. But yes, in this case, jury selection is going to be everything. We just don't know yet until the verdict's back.
Danny, super quickly here, you mentioned other witnesses. I think people hear what you describe and they're wondering, well, so what do people say happened on that train? How important will testimony from the passengers on the subway be?
This is everything. I mean, everything is going to be what happened on that train and what was perceived. And really, the ultimate question is going to be, after witnesses describe what they saw, the real question is going to come down to one form or the other. Were you afraid? Was this person perceived as a threat? And I expect you're going to get mixed answers. You might have some grizzled subway rider for years who says, you know what, I've seen it all. This guy didn't scare me. You might see a tourist from Iowa come on and testify that this was the scariest thing I've ever seen. So don't be surprised if you see diverging views on whether or not there was a threat and the extent to which there was a threat. And that is the challenge for the jury, to sift through all that and determine whether or not what Penny did was justified, or if the government, the state, has proved their case beyond a reasonable doubt. All right, Danny, thank you so much.
Let's return to the 2024 election and the surging popularity of betting on the outcome after a recent court ruling made it legal. Well, hundreds of millions of dollars are being wagered, and it's leading to concerns that voters are being misled about how each candidate is likely to perform. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock took a look at the issue.
In America, you can bet on all kinds of things, from casinos to the booming business of sports gambling to severe weather to now, as of a few weeks ago, election outcomes for the first time in a century.
Who's going to win in Michigan? Who's going to win in Georgia? And
we showed these election contracts, everything from Senate contests to the presidential race to some people in Times Square, where one of the companies offering them is actually advertising.
My initial reaction is just like, you can really do that? Like, that's legal? Okay, that's good.
You said it's capitalism at its finest.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's definitely capitalism at its finest.
Terrible. That's a terrible idea. I think people can get talked into a lot of things, but they can listen to that and be convinced that their vote's not going to count anymore.
And that's the big concern for critics of election betting. Headlines worldwide now highlighting how Trump has extended his lead in those betting markets, while virtually all polls continue to show a razor-thin margin between the candidates. Even Trump's wealthiest backer, Elon Musk, posting without evidence to his millions of followers, the betting markets are, quote, more accurate than polls. But despite the unproven nature of that statement, the platforms are surging, including Polymarket, which is crypto-based and accepts billions of dollars in largely foreign money, where it's technically illegal for U.S. citizens to bet. Responding to reporting that one person recently put $28 million down on Trump, Polymarket says it doesn't think the bets were trying to manipulate the market and that prediction markets are not opinion polls. All of it raising concerns that a handful of large wagers can potentially move the odds and public perception.
$30 million to generate millions of impressions that can control a news cycle actually works out incredibly in terms of bang for buck. This is some of the most effective advertising you could buy.
Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon proposed legislation banning it outright in the U.S.
They now have a vast incentive to spread disinformation to get the outcome that they have wagered millions of dollars on.
But one of the pioneers of election betting domestically says his platform here is different and completely disagrees.
The thing that markets do really well is that they have a mechanism for truth. Like, if you are right, you get paid. If you're wrong, you lose money.
What if the motivation isn't making money? What if the motivation is trying to sway public opinion?
That's great. Well, anyone who basically does that is going to just consistently be losing money against people that want to make money. And I think one thing that we can all trust is in the United States, there's a lot of people that like making money.
28-year-old CEO Tariq Mansour of Kalshi points out his platform is federally regulated and says it only accepts bets from U.S. investors who provide social security numbers and personal identification.
This is a market where we know where the money is coming from. The money is monitored. It's bringing more transparency to this whole process rather than basically keeping it in the shadows.
He sued the federal regulator, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, or CFTC, to permanently allow Kalshi to sell election bets, and says there's not a handful of wealthy investors moving his markets.
If that were true, the average bet size, the median bet size would be larger on Trump than on Kamala. And this is not the case right now.
As for how the market headlines are landing with the public.
You're saying that maybe this is a form of misinformation. People may misinform people about what these odds mean.
I'm saying there are definitely people who may try to misinform.
Yeah, and I think
that's
a fair concern. I mean, I'll flip the question back as like, isn't there already a lot of misinformation?
He says other countries like the UK and Australia have allowed election gambling for years.
Democratizing the access to that is actually very critical.
But the question might be if the platform will impact democracy.
You think that it could be influential enough that people would believe what they're seeing on the betting markets, that it could sway votes?
Yeah, I think it definitely could.
So you think people are that impressionable?
Yeah. They are.
Our thanks to Sam Brock for that report. And the point here, even though Trump is leading Harris in those betting markets, it is in no way reflective of where the race actually stands.
Coming up, return to office reluctance.
Yeah, more companies requiring employees to head back to work in person, but not everyone is willing. After the break, how years of remote work have shifted many Americans' priorities and attitudes. You're watching Morning News Now. We are back with mounting pressure on workers here in the U.S. to return to the office. 4 years after the pandemic forced all of us to work remotely, several CEOs are now saying they want workers spending more days in person. Maybe it's happening where you work. NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Roman spoke to one expert who says more people will quit if they're forced to head in.
Right. Grounding nature for Tim there, man. Thank you. Have a good one.
The nation's largest coffee chain putting its corporate employees on notice.
To do your job really well, I think there's a piece of this where you have to be
in the office.
The new CEO wants to enforce a 2-year-old policy. Corporate staff must be in the office 3 days a week.
To be a part of Starbucks, you got to contribute to the culture, you got to show up, and you got to bring a positive energy.
He's new to the job. Based in California, he commutes to Seattle via private jet. Also in Seattle, Amazon Web Services expects a full 5-day return to office early next year, prompting roughly 37,000 employees to join an internal Slack channel to complain.
These companies that are saying you got to be in the office 3 days a week or 5 days a week, they're going to lose talent who demand flexibility.
Yes. And we can demand flexibility now because we didn't realize that we could before.
One study found most employers want workers in the office at least 3 days a week, but only 51% of employees right now actually are. And 80% of companies have return to office policies. Only 17% enforce them. Some companies are quietly downsizing their big office footprints to save money, and others like Spotify and Dropbox are now fully remote.
2025 will be an attempt to get people back into the office, but ultimately the pace of change in technology will get us all working virtually.
For now, companies struggling to balance culture and the flexibility many workers crave. Christine Romans, NBC News, New York.
More money headlines now. A deal to end Boeing's workers' strike could finally take off.
CNBC's Savannah Hanau joins us with that and other news. Hey, Savannah, good morning.
Hey, guys, good morning. Happy Friday. Yeah, so striking workers at Boeing will vote Monday on a new contract offer that includes a 38% pay hike over 4 years. Now, it's being endorsed by union leaders who told members they've extracted all they could from the company. The 33,000 factory workers rejected 2 previous offers, and it all comes at a critical time for Boeing, which announced this week it would raise up to $24 billion to shore up its finances. Apple reporting better than expected quarterly earnings with record revenue thanks to early demand for the iPhone 16, even before the rollout of the Apple Intelligence AI features. Apple Services unit also seeing strong growth, and it's now roughly a $100 billion a year business. However, the company does expect modest growth during the holiday quarter. And Rolls-Royce has made a one-of-a-kind car that's fit for a supervillain. The luxury automaker showcasing a new Phantom extended sedan celebrating the 60th anniversary of the James Bond film Goldfinger. And it draws inspiration from the 1937 Rolls driven by Art Goldfinger in the movie. And it's filled with several Easter eggs for Bond fans, including yellow paint and two-tone finish, gold detailing throughout the cabin from the seats to the glove box, and picnic trays in the back seat that show a fictional map of Fort Knox, which Goldfinger attempted to sabotage, guys.
There, a lot of details there, my goodness.
Lots of details. Oh, yeah. No details spared.
Thank you so much. Coming up, he is flipping the script in the face of adversity.
Broadway star Aaron Lazar taking on the most important role of his life as he raises awareness about a debilitating disease. I'm going to bring you our conversation about his battle against ALS, how it's moved him to inspire others. This is Morning News Now.
Okay, hello. You heard her. Mariah Carey is sounding the alarm, or in this case, that whistle tone, a sure sign that the holiday season is finally upon us. As you can see, she starts off her elaborate Twitter announcement in her Halloween costume as Morticia from the Addams Family. That is until her melodic holiday holler hits just the right key to unlock a burst of Christmas colors. So grab your hairbrush microphones and warm up those vocal cords because the Queen has spoken. Mariah Carey season, Christmas time, is here at last. I always say this, Joe, you know this, the day after Halloween is Christmas time.
Exactly. And you are very excited, I can tell. I love that she has the power to declare this. Like, that is like to tell the world
totally does. Yeah.
It is Christmas time.
Yeah,
all right.
I love it.
Here we go. Now to our series, Flipping the Script, featuring people on air, on stage, and behind the scenes, shining a spotlight on diversity. Enter Aaron Lazar. The longtime stage actor has been in about a dozen Broadway productions, including The Light in the Piazza and The Last Ship. Recently, he took on a new role as a motivational speaker, a role that has given Lazar a boost after he was diagnosed with ALS, a progressive neurological disease that weakens muscles. Despite that diagnosis nearly 3 years ago, Lazar remains optimistic and is working to spread that optimism everywhere.
The impossible dream.
In your life, what has the stage, especially the Broadway stage, meant to you?
It was my lifeblood. It still is my lifeblood. I started performing on stage when I was 9, which I didn't even remember until, because I thought I was going to be a doctor. But it's just always been a part of my life. Feels like, you know, one of those things like this is what I'm on the planet to do.
Let's talk about 3 years ago. That's when you were diagnosed?
Almost 3 years ago, yeah.
And what was it at first, the symptom that you were dealing with that made you think something might be wrong?
I was just sitting in my office and I looked down and I noticed that my quads were twitching, my muscles were twitching. And I thought, yeah, it must be from a workout. I was super into health and fitness.
It took 8 months before Aaron Lazar was diagnosed with ALS. When you did officially get that diagnosis, what went through your mind?
It had been such terror just to get there that it was almost relief. I cried it out, and then I was like, let's fix this. I just, from almost day one after diagnosis, I had this feeling that I'm going to beat it, and there was just a voice within me that was saying, let's go, let's heal.
And where are you right now in that quest?
Up and down, but I can say that over this last month, I've taken more steps with my walker than I have since June, and my left big toe, which hasn't moved in a year, is wiggling. So I believe and really feel that all the work that I've done over the last couple of years to heal is starting to make it into my body.
Music is part of that healing process.
Let your soul guide you.
Lazar recently released his first album, teaming up with Josh Groban and many other stars. In fact, a large group of Aaron's theater friends joined him to record an iconic Broadway song, The Impossible Dream.
It's been the anthem of my life. The Impossible Dream was, it's the iconic, you know, 11 o'clock, big 11 o'clock number from the musical The Man of La Mancha. And 24 years ago, I was in graduate school at the Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music. And there were critics and agents from New York in the audience, so my childhood dream of becoming a professional actor was on the line, right? And I sang that song, and I just remember standing in the spotlight in that silence after a song ends, and the audience rose in applause, and it stopped the show, and I started to cry because I realized in that moment, as a 24-year-old kid with a dream of making it on Broadway, that my impossible dream was starting to come true. I sang it that night, having been on this healing journey at that point for almost a year and a half, and it was like, to dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go. And I just thought, this is my life. Like, this is my life.
Just last month, he headlined a benefit for Project ALS, joined by Sarah Bareilles and other Broadway stars. What is your impossible dream right now?
It's to heal. My impossible dream is to heal. Full recovery. And just last week, they announced the 60-second reversal of ALS. And so my impossible dream is to be 63.
This is my quest.
And with what's been happening physically, it seems like all the work that I've done to heal my mind and the work that I've done to heal my heart and my soul, whatever that means to you, is starting to make it into my body. So I really feel like getting closer to reaching the unreachable star.
His recently released album, Impossible Dream, now available to stream or download. He's also part of another upcoming album, Broadway Lullabies, which imagines popular show tunes as classic lullabies.
Oh,
you
cool.
can see why he's become a motivational speaker, because in the face of such incredible challenges, he is inspiring so many people, and it has given him just an incredible purpose as he continues to fight this disease.
Yeah, also, he just seems like one of those great people to be around.
He's just good. Yeah, he's just good people.
It's like,
exactly.
yeah,
Very
that's
nice.
awesome. Great conversation, Joe.
That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, we are heading into the final weekend before Election Day. Vice President Harris, former President Trump finding themselves in the same states, courting the last of those undecided voters.
Do you want to lose your job or maybe your house or pension because Kamala has the economic understanding of a child? She's a child.
The man simply does not respect the freedom of women or the intelligence of women to be able to make decisions about their own lives.
As the marathon race comes to a close, the renewed focus on the gender gap and health care. Plus, our exclusive interview with Vice President Harris as we enter the home stretch. Also this morning, disaster zone search and recovery missions underway in Spain after its worst flooding in decades. Some areas seeing a year's worth of rain in just 8 hours. My officials are now warning the devastation is not over yet. Plus, get your clocks ready. Daylight saving time officially ends this weekend, and with that, an extra hour of sublime sleep. As we get ready to fall back, there's a renewed push to get rid of the biannual time change once again, once and for all. And it's Friday, which means it's almost time for your can't miss list. From family odd couples to high stakes political dramas, we've got the latest and greatest in the world of entertainment for you to check out this weekend. High stakes political drama. It sounds like life right now. Our
Maybe
reality.
we'll watch that in a few weeks.
Exactly. Good to have you with us. We are now just 4 days away from the election. Both candidates are embarking on another dash across the country, heading into the final week of campaigning.
Yeah, yesterday, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump rallied in Nevada and Arizona with a focus on Latino voters. For her part, VP Harris also seized on Mr. Trump's comments on women, while the former president ramped up the rhetoric on immigration. We've got a team standing by to talk about all this and more, but we're going to start things off in Milwaukee with NBC News Chief White House Correspondent Peter Alexander. Good morning.
Hey, Joe, Savannah, good morning to both of you. As we head into this final weekend of the campaign, Vice President Harris and former President Trump are both going to be back here in Milwaukee tonight. They'll rally their supporters just miles apart from one another. And this morning, Trump is facing new backlash after his latest attack, escalating the violent language he has used to target his political opponents, this time ominously suggesting one of his most prominent critics, Liz Cheney, should be shot.
On Western swing states heading to the final weekend, both candidates trying to reach women voters. Vice President Kamala Harris seizing on former President Trump's comments.
Did anybody hear what he had to say just yesterday?
After he spoke about protecting women earlier this week.
They said, sir, I just think it's inappropriate for you to say, pay these guys a lot of money. Can you believe it? I said, well, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them. I'm going to protect them from migrants coming in. I'm going to protect them from foreign countries that want to hit us.
Harris leaning into that comment to drive home her message on reproductive rights.
This is someone who simply does not respect the freedom of women.
As the former president made his pitch in Nevada and Arizona.
Do you want to lose your job or maybe your house or pension because Kamala has the economic understanding of a child?
In a late-night event with Tucker Carlson, also attacking former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney, who has endorsed Harris.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face.
Meanwhile, the Trump campaign is highlighting these remarks from a top Harris surrogate, billionaire Mark Cuban, after sharing why he thought the former president had not asked Nikki Haley to campaign with him.
Donald Trump, you never see him around strong, intelligent women, ever.
Trump responding overnight, I surround myself with the strongest of women. Both campaigns also trying to reach Hispanic voters. Trump explaining why he went to Democratic-leaning New Mexico.
I like you very much, and it's good for my credentials with the Hispanic or Latino community.
And Harris in Las Vegas alongside Puerto Rican superstar Jennifer Lopez.
I am Puerto Rican, and we are Americans.
Just days after that comedian delivered an offensive joke about Puerto Rico at Trump's Madison Square Garden rally.
It is time for a new generation of leadership in America.
And early this morning, we are hearing from Liz Cheney, who's responding to Trump's violent words about her, posting, "This is how dictators destroy free nations." She writes, "They threaten those who speak against them with death. We cannot entrust our country and our freedom to a petty, vindictive, cruel, unstable man who wants to be a tyrant." I expect you'll hear a lot more about this over the course of the day. Back to you guys.
All right, Peter, thank you so much. I want to bring in NBC News Washington correspondent Yamiche Alcindor. She spoke with Vice President Harris ahead of her rally in Phoenix yesterday afternoon. Yamiche, great interview. You covered a lot of ground with the Vice President. Thanks for joining us on this. So in these final days of campaigning, first, just what is the message, if you could kind of boil it down, that she is driving home, she's trying to drive home, I should say, for the American people, what she will do as a leader if she's elected? Really the important thing, right? What each of these candidates are saying they would do in this role.
Well, the vice president is really trying to hammer home the message that she's going to be laser focused on improving the lives of Americans, including dealing with the economy and lowering the cost of living in this country. I specifically asked her what she would do on day one and what she would do if there was executive action that she would take. Take a listen to what she told me.
Day one, what's your first executive action?
Well, my first priority, which will be probably the package of bills, is about bringing down the cost of living. So it's about housing, it's about childcare, it's about what we need to do to deal with grocery prices. So it's not one, it's a package that is with one singular purpose, bringing down the cost of living.
She also said that she has a to-do list and that Donald Trump, the former president, of course, has a enemies list. So she's really trying to focus in on the idea that she would be doing a lot of stuff to help people and he would be focused on revenge and retribution, Savannah.
Yeah, absolutely. We know that both of them are focusing, laser focused on the economy, given the fact that we're seeing in polling how much that matters to voters. And for Harris's part, of course, a lot of times Trump is polling better in that regard. So we're hearing a lot from her on this. We've also seen Harris seizing on that comment by former President Trump, where he said he would be a protector of women, whether the women like it or not. First, can you put that comment in context for us? What was the former president actually saying? And then tell us more about how the vice president has now been using that in her campaign.
Well, former President Trump made this comment, and he said that he would protect women whether they liked it or not. And then he went on to say that he would protect them from things like the bad impacts when it comes to illegal immigration in this country, undocumented people that might be doing crimes against them. So he was basically saying, I'm going to protect you against all of these different nefarious things that come in and that could hurt you. But that being said, there are some people who are saying, hey, including the vice president, that's not the language that you should be using. We were talking about women. I asked the vice president about that during our interview in Arizona. Here's what she told me.
Former President Donald Trump has said that he would be a protector of women, whether they like it or not. What do you make of that, and how does that contrast with your views on women and their rights and needs?
The majority of Americans believe that women are intelligent enough and should have and be respected for their agency to make decisions for themselves about what is in their best interest and not have their government, and certainly not Donald Trump, telling them what to do.
The vice president is also in some ways connecting this to the overall messaging that she's had, which is that women should be trusted with the freedoms to do what they want with their lives, including, of course, when it comes to abortion and it comes to reproductive health. So even though these are not completely connected, she is talking about this on the campaign trail and saying that Republicans are trying to control women. And she's been saying they're so, quote, simply out of their minds for trying to do that, Savannah.
And we also know that abortion is such a motivator, we have heard from voters in polls, for people to actually show up and vote on that issue. The Harris campaign also has been doing some damage control. This is after President Biden appeared to call Trump supporters garbage. He said he was misunderstood, pointing even to punctuation in what he said, trying to clarify he was really criticizing the comedian who made those comments at a Trump rally. But it has caused blowback for sure for the campaign. I know you asked Harris about all that. First, let's play some of that.
Well, I've addressed how I feel about those comments. One, that the president explained what he meant. But two, I do not believe, and I will speak for myself, that we should ever criticize people based on who they vote for.
Yamiche, whether it's just using that comment as an example or generally, tell us how Harris is trying to define herself as a different type of leader than current President Biden.
It's a key question because I've heard on the campaign trail voters saying, well, how exactly is she going to be different from what is and has been called the Biden-Harris administration? But she's saying she's not going to be a continuation of the Biden administration. This is not going to be Joe Biden's second term with her in office. She's saying that her life experiences, her values, who she is as a person, that all of that is going to impact the way that she sees the world. And then she's also pointing to some specific policies, talking about what she's been calling the sandwich generation, saying she's going to be laser focused on people who are both having to take care of aging parents as well as having to take care of young children. So that's one thing that she's also been sort of hammering home in terms of the policy differences that we'll see. It's also going to be interesting how she handles the foreign policy aspect of her presidency. If she's elected, there's a lot of people who are wondering whether or not she's going to handle the Mideast conflict differently because she's been very, very outspoken about the civilian death in Gaza, though there are a number of Muslim and pro-Palestinian voices who say that they're wanting more specificity when it comes to what she would actually do differently when it comes to President Biden on that issue. But she's really stressing this idea that she will be different. And it's, of course, in some ways pushing back against the Republicans and President Trump, who has been saying that she's really just someone who's going to continue a lot of what President Biden was doing. Savannah?
Yamiche, thank you very much. And again, we appreciate you bringing us that exclusive interview. Thanks. In the final lead up to Election Day, the issue of health care is back in the spotlight, and both former President Trump and Vice President Harris are offering very different plans when it comes to things like the Affordable Care Act and the agencies that regulate America's health systems. Here's NBC News' Garrett Haake.
Healthcare consistently polls as one of the top issues in this race. Vice President Harris running on protecting Obamacare and women's health. Donald Trump promising an unspecified major overhaul and lately suggesting a controversial figure to oversee it.
America's healthcare becoming a central issue in the late days of the campaign.
We will make America healthy again.
I believe health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it.
House Speaker Mike Johnson telling a crowd in Pennsylvania this week, if Donald Trump wins, expect big changes.
He's going to be thinking about legacy, and we're going to fix these things.
No Obamacare?
No Obamacare. Yeah, the ACA is so deeply ingrained. We need massive reform.
Vice President Harris pouncing on Johnson's remarks.
Be very clear that among the stakes in this election are whether we continue with the Affordable Care Act or not.
Former President Trump in New Mexico Thursday saying that's not the case.
She says, I want to end Obamacare and take away your health care. That's a lie. We've come up with something better. That'll be great. And everybody wants that because Obamacare sort of sucks. It's too expensive for the people.
Harris has campaigned on strengthening the ACA. During Trump's first term, Republicans repeatedly tried and failed to repeal it. Trump now saying he wants a less burdensome option.
If we got something better, I would do it if it was less expensive.
Meanwhile, two campaign sources tell NBC if Trump wins, former candidate turned Trump supporter Robert Kennedy Jr. could play a pivotal role in reform, including on the battle against chronic childhood diseases.
President Trump has promised me is control of the public health agencies, which are HHS and its sub-agencies, CDC, FDA, NIH, and a few others.
But health experts have criticized Kennedy's repeated debunked claims attempting to draw links between vaccines and autism, as well as fringe conspiracies on antidepressants and COVID. Trump has repeatedly said Kennedy could have a role, including last night.
He can do anything he wants. And I say it jokingly, but I say, Bobby, I love you looking at health. I want you to take care of the women of this country, the men of this country, and the children of this country.
On reproductive health, Trump told NBC News back in August he would mandate insurance coverage for the procedure or let the government pay for it. With 4 days left in this campaign, he's provided no specifics on how that program would work or who would pay for it.
Garrett, thank you so much. Well, more than 150 people have been killed in devastating flash floods in Spain. A year's worth of rain fell in just 8 hours around Valencia, Spain's third most populous city, fueling the worst natural disaster in the country's modern history. NBC News International correspondent Megan Fitzgerald joins us now with more on this. Megan, good morning.
Savannah, good morning to you. Look, it's been 3 days now since horrific flooding hit the southeastern part of Spain. But this morning, we are still seeing some remarkable rescues being made. Even still, these crews realize that it very much is a race against time to try and find survivors, as meteorologists have issued another weather alert, urging people to stay in a safe place as the country braces for more inclement weather. This morning, the desperate rescue mission in southeastern Spain continues, with crews going door to door with boats, looking for people trapped inside flooded homes. Rescuers working around the clock after massive flooding rushed in 3 days ago. Torrential rain turning roads into rivers, sweeping cars, stacking them one on top of the other, ripping apart homes and collapsing bridges. The elderly in this nursing home were stranded, many in wheelchairs, trapped in rushing water, staff quickly moving residents. But some didn't survive, adding to a rising death toll, now surging to around 158. This man says it's unimaginable. Not even in a horror movie has he seen something like this. These satellite images showing the scale of the destruction as frustration toward local officials continues to grow. This woman saying the warnings came too late. But the focus for now, rescuing stranded survivors. This baby just airlifted to safety as Spain struggles to recover from the worst flooding disaster in decades. Now, the Spanish government hasn't made a statement yet about reports that residents weren't given enough notice about the flooding. We are hearing, though, from the mayor of one of the hardest hit towns, who says that they had no indication that the river would overflow its banks, which really contributed to the scope of this devastation. Savannah.
All right, Megan, thank you so much. Well, the first weekend of November is here, even though it doesn't really look like it. Let's get a check on what you can expect for your weekend with your Morning News Now weather meteorologist Michelle Grossman joins us. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Hi there, Savannah. I know it's so confusing. November 1st, and we're still going to be near 80 degrees today. So depending on where you are in the country, some spots are a little cooler, and then eventually into the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, New England, we're going to be closer to normal tomorrow. So this is what today looks like. We have a cold front that's trailing from portions of New England down to the south central states. That's going to bring a little bit of showers, maybe some sprinkles. That's about it as it moves through portions of the Northeast. But out ahead of this cold front, we're looking at a really warm day once again. Temperatures near 70, 80 degrees in some spots. Behind this cold front, we have much cooler air working in. So that cold front's going to move through. Then it's going to usher in more typical November temperatures into New England, the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic by tomorrow. In the middle of the country, we're looking at some sunshine in the Central Plains. Could see some strong storms in parts of the Central Gulf Coast states. And then in the west, we're looking at heavy rain. That's a powerful storm system moving onshore. It's going to bring some rain. That's where you're seeing the green. Some of it could be heavy and also some mountain snow. So let's talk about the temperatures, because that's been the big story. 2 seasons. We have that cold front dividing us. So in portions of the east, we're looking at 70s and 80s, temperatures 10, 15, 25 degrees. What is typical for this time of year. We have one more day of that before we start to cool back down. But guess what? We're going to warm up as we go throughout the next week. Back behind this cold front, we're looking at temperatures at or below normal. Detroit 53, that's 2 degrees below what is typical for this time of year. Minneapolis only in the 40s. But it's a big warm up by tomorrow. It's not going to last long, because Minneapolis, you're going to be up to 57 by tomorrow, 8 degrees above normal. And this warmth is going to spread into the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes. It's also going to help to spur some storms later on tomorrow. We could see some strong storms, especially in West Texas. So the plains, parts of the plains, the central and southern plains, looking at those strong to severe storms. In West Texas, we could see some tornadoes. We could see some hail, 2 inches or larger. Certainly some damaging winds with winds gusting gusting over 60 miles per hour. Notice that rain and snow in the west that has now moved into the Intermountain West on Saturday, and still much cooler as well on the sidelines for all the kids' sports and all that stuff, or out at the farmers market on Saturday, looking at some much cooler temperatures. That will be the story on Sunday as well. Heavy rain throughout portions of the middle of the country, and look at that Rockies snow. We're looking at accumulating snow high up in the mountains, but still feeling a little wintry in the Rockies on Sunday.
Ooh, there you go. Okay, I'm ready for this.
I am
It's
too.
November.
It's November.
I
I'm
want
going to
it
get
to
in my
feel-
car. I'm going to put on the Christmas on Sirius, right?
Okay, so you're
Jimmy
of the
Fallon.
team. It's Christmas time today.
Yes, I'm decorating.
I
My
love it.
husband is not, so we battle. He gets outside. I'm decorating.
Same, and my husband always wants a real tree, which you can't put up yet.
Same.
But I'm like, we're getting a picture. Anyway.
We are.
Thanks
I'm
for
picking
listening
up
to
today.
us talk
at
about
Home
this.
Depot.
Hopefully a lot of you are on our team. I love that. Michelle, thank you so much.
Sure.
Coming up, it's a tradition that goes back 50 years from Ford to Biden. We're looking back at SNL's long history of lampooning the White House. With the next presidential election, of course, just days away. First, though, a new Netflix documentary about Martha Stewart is getting some pushback from none other than Martha herself. Her scathing review up next. We are back with Martha Stewart's reaction to the new Netflix documentary about Martha Stewart. That's about her life, and it hit the streaming service Wednesday.
Stewart participated in the documentary, but now the media mogul is voicing her displeasure with the film to the New York Times. NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas joins us with more on this. Chloe, good morning.
Hey there. So yes, her interview, you guys, is the main part of this documentary. So clearly she didn't have creative control because she gave some scathing remarks to the New York Times when a reporter gave her a phone call, and she actually talked to this reporter for about 30 minutes criticizing multiple aspects of the documentary.
I am a perfectionist.
The nearly 2-hour documentary Martha explores the rise, fall, and comeback of media mogul Martha Stewart.
Here's this girl living modestly who gets a good idea, builds it into something really fine, and profits from it. That's basically my story. And then falls in a hole.
While Stewart participated in the film, she's now taking issue with the final product, telling the New York Times in a phone call that writer and director R.J. Cutler had total access, and he really used very little. After watching the film at its premiere in New York last week, Stewart has notes. The self-made billionaire says that she felt Cutler chose to use the ugliest angle of her interview, adding she hated shots of herself appearing to walk with a limp in her garden, explaining that she was recovering from a surgery. Those last scenes with me looking like a lonely old lady walking hunched over in the garden, boy, I told him to get rid of those, and he refused. Stewart also felt Cutler in the film focused way too much time on her 2004 trial and prison sentence. It was less than 2 years out of an 83-year life. I considered it a vacation, to tell you the truth. Stewart also says that she would have preferred rap music to the lousy classical music Cutler used, adding her friend Snoop Dogg should have scored it. Her review wasn't all negative, Stewart also telling The Times that it really shows a strong woman standing up for herself and living through horror as well as some huge success. In telling Hoda and Jenna earlier this month,
We've opened at Telluride, we opened at East Hampton, and to a lot of really great comments. So I'm excited about it.
In Martha, Stewart speaks candidly about all parts of her life.
I'm strict and I'm demanding and I'm all those good things that make a successful person.
Including her marriage.
You think you're happily married and your husband starts to cheat on you. He's a piece of
Didn't you have an affair early on in the relationship or when you were a stockbroker?
Yeah, but I don't think Andy ever knew about that.
In response to Stewart's review, Cutler told The Times in part, "I'm really proud of this film, and I admire Martha's courage in entrusting me to make it. I'm not surprised that it's hard for her to see aspects of it."
So we have reached out to Netflix and to the director and to Martha Stewart for further comment. We haven't yet heard anything back. I've watched the documentary. I loved it. I mean, this feels very Martha to come out and say, you know, that she's not happy with parts of it. I've interviewed her in the past. Clearly, she wanted more creative control, and she wanted Snoop Dogg to score the entire documentary. But I'm surprised at did she only just recently see the documentary? So that's a little bit unclear.
Sometimes it can be just hard to see yourself for 2 hours, your whole life unvarnished, and people have, strong feelings. And so,
It is an interesting point, though, if it was at all those film festivals where I think she was, that she may have seen it before. But Maybe she's
had time to reflect.
Yes, you have to watch it though because it's full of all these like fun one-liners from Martha.
Oh yeah,
it's like really, it's like fun to
Classic
watch.
Martha, as is her interview with the New York Times, filled with classic one-liners.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine her picking up the phone. The guy's like, "All right, here we go." Chloe, thank you so much.
It's lousy. Anyway.
Time now for some international headlines. This morning, a new round of Israeli airstrikes rocked Lebanon's capital.
NBC's Matt Bodner joins us with that and more. Hey, Matt, good morning.
Savannah, Joe, good morning. Israel this morning targeted the suburbs of Beirut with a series of massive airstrikes after yesterday ordering local residents to evacuate. The IDF says that it was targeting Hezbollah infrastructure in the area. Meanwhile, on Thursday, the IDF hit northern Gaza's last functioning hospital, and that's according to the Gaza Health Ministry. All of this, of course, comes as the U.S. continues to push for a ceasefire both in Gaza and in Lebanon. Moving along now to Botswana, where President Masisi has conceded electoral defeat. This is a major shakeup in Botswana, which has been ruled by Masisi's Botswana Democratic Party since the country gained independence from Britain in the 1960s. Masisi's concession came before final results were announced as his party trailed in fourth place in parliamentary elections. The landslide victory will bring a coalition known as the Umbrella for Democratic Change into power. The coalition's leader, Duma Boko, is now the presumed president-elect. We'll wrap up this hour in Mexico, where a trove of pre-Hispanic artifacts recovered from the United States have been put on display in Mexico City. The collection has around 100 pieces from the colonial and pre-Hispanic era of Mexican history. The artifacts were actually recovered from Texas in 2023 by an undercover Homeland Security operation. It also features a number of other pieces, including one that was voluntarily returned to Mexico by a U.S. citizen who purchased them in 2016. Back to you guys.
All right, Matt, thank you so much.
Ready or not, it's almost time to set your clocks back.
Yeah, daylight saving time officially ends this Sunday, but with a couple states opting out, could we soon see even more follow suit? That's next.
Welcome back. Let's get to some breaking news from overnight. There's hope that a crippling weeks-long strike at Boeing could soon be over.
The jet maker and its largest union have agreed on a new negotiated offer to raise worker pay and potentially end the strike. This comes after workers rejected two previous proposals. The contract is set to be put to a vote on Monday. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello covers aviation for us. Joins us with the latest. Tom, good morning.
Hey, guys, hey, listen, for a company in deep trouble, and Boeing is in deep trouble, it desperately needs the sweetened deal to bring an end to this strike, costing $1 billion a month. Boeing machinists, as you know, walked off the job almost 7 weeks ago, back on September 13th, halting production of some of the company's critical aircraft, right? We're talking the 737, the 67, the 777, and now Boeing is offering even higher wages. This new proposal includes a 38% pay raise over several years, up from 35%, which was in the offer rejected last week. And this also means the annual pay for machinists would increase from $76,000 to more than $119,000. And then there is that $12,000 one-time bonus ratification payment, which can go right to paychecks, 401ks, or a combination of both. There is no offer to bring back pensions. And as you know, that's what the union has been demanding from the beginning. That's what members want. Union leadership still wants that. But essentially, the bottom line is the company says that's not going to happen. Union leadership wants the members now to take this deal, you guys.
Tom, so walk us through the next steps here. How quickly would the strike end?
So Boeing members, or rather the union members, are going to start voting on Monday morning. It will last through the day. And the union says if this contract proposal passes, then 33,000 machinists, mostly in the Seattle area, they could return to work as soon as Wednesday. By the way, you know, Boeing is still planning to lay off 10% of the workforce, regardless of whether this deal goes through. But, guys, just, you know, put it into perspective. The union all along has been demanding a 40% pay hike. So now you got the company coming all the way up to 38%. But the big thing they wanted was the pensions returned. They were scrapped 10 years ago. Boeing has said that's a non-starter. We're not bringing back pensions. And as you know, many companies have scrapped pensions because they're too costly. That seems like that's maybe a bridge too far. We'll see if this offer is sweet enough for the members.
All right, Tom, thank you so much.
Okay.
This is your reminder, one of many you will likely get, that on Sunday, most of the country will get a little extra time in bed when daylight saving time ends.
But the biannual clock change has long been a source of debate, something we remind you of twice a year. NBC News correspondent Emily Aketa joins us on this. Hey, Emily, good morning.
Hey, guys, good morning to you. Well, so let's start with the good news this weekend. We get an extra hour of glorious sleep. The bad, it's basically lights out by the late afternoon. And as we prepare to fall back this weekend and shift into standard time, there's a growing push by state and federal lawmakers to call times up on the twice-a-year flip-flopping.
This morning, the return of a timeless debate over whether the U.S. should goodnight its twice-a-year clock changes.
Anyone else not ready for it to be dark when you get out of work?
From TikTok to late night, even celebrities have weighed in.
What I like about it is it allows me to know that spring is really here.
In March, our clocks sprang forward, extending daylight later into the evening. Now on Sunday, the clocks will fall back, allowing for an earlier sunrise and an extra hour of sleep. Something Swifties in Indianapolis will be celebrating after meeting Taylor Swift at midnight for her final concerts in the U.S. this weekend. Welcome to the Eras Tour. Daylight saving time first clocked in during World War I as an attempt to conserve energy during the warmer months. But since then, times have changed. One new survey shows nearly 2/3 of Americans want to do away with the flip-flopping, and some lawmakers agree. In the last 6 years, 20 states have enacted legislation that would make daylight saving time permanent, arguing it would reduce crime and boost physical activity with brighter evenings. But in order to take effect, Congress first has to pass the Sunshine Protection Act, reintroduced last year. Senator Marco Rubio, who sponsored the bill, writing this week, it's time to lock the clock and stop enduring the ridiculous and antiquated practice of switching our clocks back and forth.
I still haven't found a clear reason why we do this incredibly stupid ritual here in the United States of sunsets at 4 in the afternoon.
Though the country has tried it before in 1974 and reversed course within a year after a series of traffic accidents. Without falling back, cities like Seattle and Detroit wouldn't see the sunrise in January until 9 a.m. And so in the meantime, experts say, here's how to prepare. Avoid caffeine in the afternoon, limit your screen time, and practice calming activities before bed, like reading a book or sipping on tea, as the clock confusion ticks on.
So why do the clocks change at 2 a.m. on Sunday?
Yeah.
It goes back to the early 1900s when the U.S. first started experimenting with daylight saving time. It's because no trains at the time were leaving at 2 a.m. from New York City. So it's really a result of the railroad industry. And I also feel, I mean, still today, it's kind of the least disruptive time if you think about it. Yeah. And by the way, as millions of Americans prepare to change their clocks come Sunday, with the exception of Arizona and Hawaii, who stay constantly in standard time.
Could you imagine if they did it like 2 p.m. and suddenly it's like your work day is an hour longer?
All of a sudden we have nightly news like, oh, we have one less hour to get this thing done.
That's right. So quicker deadline. Yeah.
Thank you, Emily. Appreciate it. Coming up, we're getting some new insight into America's economy this morning.
And who better, yes, to break it down than our own economic dream team. Oh, they're not bobbling. But look, we've got your cute little graphic there. Our Brian Chung and Investopedia's Caleb Silver. After the break, we'll dig into October's jobs report. Thanks, guys. Out just this morning. What it all means just days before the election. We're back with some breaking economic data this morning.
The U.S. economy added only 12,000 jobs in October. That is significantly less than expected. The unemployment rate held steady at 4.1%.
We are so lucky that we've got our economic dream team here to tell us more about these numbers and what it means for you. We've got NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung and Investopedia's editor-in-chief Caleb Silver. Thank goodness that graphic was the bobble one. I appreciate that control room. Brian, let's start with you. Walk us through these numbers and how it varies from previous months.
Yeah, good morning, guys. A real disappointing jobs report that we got here. Let me just walk you through some of the numbers. As you mentioned, 12,000 jobs added in the month of October. That was well below estimates. Actually, economists were expecting something like 100,000 jobs in the month. Instead, what we got was something around here, just 12,000 jobs added. I do want to point out that there were a number of things that impacted this jobs report, which explains why it's so low. First off, you have the two hurricanes, Hurricanes Helene and also Milton. And then you also have the Boeing strike, where over 40,000 44,000 workers in the Pacific Northwest went on strike during that period, actually still remain on strike, as you heard from Tom Costello. But one important thing to point out here is despite those things, the unemployment rate did stay the same. It's at 4.1% right now. But again, that headline number of just 12,000 jobs added in the month, certainly pretty disappointing.
All right, so Caleb, Brian mentioned the hurricanes there. Does that mean this is a blip, or is this saying something larger about the state of our economy right now, especially as we head into the election?
Yeah, I think of it as a blip because if you think about the average for the past 12 months, we've added 194,000 jobs a month on average. There were big revisions down for August, 81,000 jobs, down September, 31,000 jobs, fewer, but still 194,000 jobs a month. The unemployment rate is key. These are two different surveys, but if you look across the other numbers, the amount of long-term unemployed, the people that can't find work, they're almost exactly the same as they were last month, which is similar to the month before. So this has got to be because of the strikes and because of those two hurricanes.
And Brian, break this down by sector for us. Where are we seeing the biggest changes?
Yeah, well, again, because the headline number was so low, a lot of the sorry, I just drew a straight line. Let me swipe to the next one. When we talk about leisure and hospitality, bars and restaurants, this was driving so much of the job gains post-pandemic. We actually saw a contraction in this space. 4,000 payrolls lost in the month of October. I actually have to go back into the data and see when the last time we saw a contraction in this industry was. It was basically a long time ago. Healthcare, though, this was one of the few bright spots in this report. 52,000 jobs added in the month. Construction jobs also did add about 8,000 jobs in the month. But I also want to add one more category. We were talking about the Boeing strike. Yes, the two hurricanes certainly impactful in the states of North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida as well for Milton. But over in the Pacific Northwest, as I mentioned, Boeing on strike, 44,000 workers there. If you take a look at that industry, we saw a contraction of 44,000 jobs, which basically maps almost one-to-one to the amount of people that are on strike there. Again, that's still an ongoing situation, so that might impact the next jobs report as well.
Caleb, yesterday we mentioned the Federal Reserve is meeting in
6 days, 5 hours, and 14 minutes.
And then again a month later, right?
Exactly, December 17th and 18th.
Does this change anything that they're planning to do?
No, because this shows that, even though we had this blip, if it's a blip, that they're still planning on lowering interest rates by a quarter point next week, about a 90% chance of that happening. And the Fed is also looking at wage growth here. That is up 0.4% month after month, 4% over the past year. So wages now far outpacing inflation. That's a good sign. And this is not going to be a great headline number by any means for anybody trying to get elected next week. But still, the economy is in pretty strong shape. And remember, 3 of the past 4 presidents entered the White House with a recession. We are not in one right now. We have 4.1% unemployment. The economy is still growing.
Brian, give us a little more info on that wage growth side of things.
Yeah, and I think that's one reason on the wages side that it basically underscores Caleb's point, which is that we are not at all in a recession. Because, yes, the headline number was bad, but this jobs report also told us that average hourly earnings, how much people's income is growing, went up by 4% on a yearly basis. If you map that against inflation over basically the same time period, it's 2.4%. Wages have been outpacing inflation. Your wallets have been growing at a faster rate than the price tags at the store. Wasn't always the case. Certainly wasn't the case during the summer of 2022. But this dynamic, especially going into that election, at least in this moment right now, inflation is not eroding your wage growth. And that's a big, important story that we need to remember, despite the fact that that overall headline number was so disappointing this morning.
Yeah, so just big picture here. What is this saying about our wallets right now?
Well, we are a little bit strained, but we're going into the big holiday season. We know people expect to spend more this year than last year. Some of that is prices. Some of that is the fact that people want to spend. But generally speaking, there are jobs out there. Wages are still growing. The unemployment rate is only 4.1%. That is close to full employment. The economy is growing right now. Not everybody might be feeling it, but if you're looking at the big headline numbers, we're looking at an economy that's in pretty decent shape.
Dream team. Brian, Caleb, thank you both so much.
More money headlines now. Ford Motors plans to shut down production for its signature electric pickup truck through the end of the year.
CNBC's Silvana Hanau joins us with that and some other news. Good morning, Silvana.
Hey, Savannah. Hey, Jill. Good morning and happy Friday to you. Yeah, so Ford is pausing production of the electric F-150 Lightning truck for several weeks as demand for EVs remains downbeat. Ford will idle the factory that makes the Lightning from mid-November to January 6th. And the move comes less than a year after Ford said it was dropping a shift at the plant permanently. Automakers have been scrambling to readjust plans for their electric vehicles. In August, Ford scrapped plans for a 3-row SUV, citing pressure on prices for battery-powered cars. Amazon CEO is hinting at an improved version of the company's Alexa digital assistant, one that could take actions on your behalf. During Amazon's earnings call last night, Andy Jassy says the next generation of these assistants and generative AI applications will be better at not just answering questions and summarizing data, but also automatically handling tasks. He says Amazon continues to re-architect the brain of Alexa that it plans to reveal soon. Amazon first announced it would overhaul Alexa last year. Bloomberg's reporting it likely won't be launched until sometime in 2025. And you don't have to cook a full Thanksgiving meal for your house to smell like you did. Campbell's unveiling a lineup of candles this week that smell like your favorite side dishes: green bean casserole, jalapeno cheddar mac and cheese, herb stuffing, and everything bagel seasoned mashed potatoes. Campbell's partnered with Camp, that's a family experience company, on the limited edition collection. And the candles go on sale November 18th for $30, guys.
Candles have gotten expensive, my goodness.
They really have.
I'm into that, though. I think
$30.
it's cute that they look like a soup can, but some of it, like, I don't want a cheddar cheese candle, but that apple one,
either.
I don't know.
The apple one was, that could be good.
Yeah. All right, Savannah, thank you. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Saturday Night Live rolls on with a new episode tomorrow night. You can pretty much guarantee the show will feature a sketch about the election, carrying on a tradition of merging politics and comedy that has spanned 50 years and 9 presidencies. And over that time, viewers have been just as interested in the bits as who is playing the part.
One more thing. Live from New York is Saturday Night!
30 Rock is 200-plus miles from the White House. Yet on Saturday nights, the distance between those two landmarks
I can see Russia from my house.
seems to vanish.
When you make Barack Obama angry, he turns into The Rock Obama.
It started when the show debuted in 1975 during the Ford administration.
5, 4, fellow Americans. 3.
Chevy Chase painted a rather clumsy portrait of the sitting president.
No problem.
From there, Dan Aykroyd's Jimmy Carter wrestled with inflation.
I'm asking each and every American to take 8% of your money and burn it.
All right, let's get down to business.
While Phil Hartman's Ronald Reagan confronted the Iran-Contra affair.
Well, does it say I approve shipments of arms to Iran?
Yes, it does.
Did I?
All right, boys.
Hartman was a bipartisan artisan, also mocking Democrat Bill Clinton's love of fast food.
It's just going to end up in the hands of warlords.
And who could forget Will Ferrell's take on George W. Bush? Strategery. Turns out Mr. Bush was watching.
I can't tell you how long I had to practice strategery.
Ferrell later revisited the iconic line with Hoda and Jen.
Lorne Michaels told my dad, "You never said that." And he said, "What?"
I think you owe someone an apology.
I'm sorry, Mr. President.
1,000.
George H.W. Bush also got the SNL treatment.
Not got that.
Courtesy of Dana Carvey.
That is bad. They're bad.
Eventually, the imitator met the imitated.
I think it's a fair impression.
Don't say it. I never once said "nagada."
Here's the deal.
Today, Carvey is back as President Biden.
You're gonna make a great president.
His goal?
The true North Star is to try to make it funny and not really get it to be a political message per se.
This season, Maya Rudolph is also back with her Emmy-winning impersonation of Vice President Harris.
Well, your fun act has returned. The fund has been rebooted.
She's joined by fellow SNL alum Andy Samberg as her life mate.
'Tis I, Doug, the second gentleman,
and Jim Gaffigan as her running mate.
It's good.
While James Austin Johnson parodies former President Trump.
They're eating the pets. They're eating Mudang.
Right now, what role does SNL play in politics?
SNL has become the arena in which Americans are more comfortable to engage in an increasingly fraught race.
91 indictments.
The campaign trail is often run through Studio 8H, especially ahead of the 2008 election.
Who is that under there?
With cameos by then Senators Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton.
Do I really laugh like that? Oh, yeah.
and Sarah Palin.
The real one?
Bye.
Thank you very much.
John McCain hosted once, and in 2015, so did candidate Trump.
It's wonderful to be here.
A controversial decision.
People look back to that moment as probably a turning point. You've seen fewer politicians on the show since then.
Election day.
But we've seen plenty of stars playing politicians.
Senator Sanders, I'm sorry, but the night is over.
No, it's not over.
As SNL celebrates 50 years of turning the nation's business into funny business. SNL's creator, Lorne Michaels, recently told The Hollywood Reporter not to expect cameos from Vice President Harris or former President Trump ahead of the election this season, so highly unlikely we'll see either tomorrow night. The main reason, equal time rules. One shows up, the network has to give the other the same amount of time on the airwaves ahead of Tuesday. Probably not going to happen. Do you have a favorite impression over the years?
I think I'm just so impressed by Tina Fey's acting with Sarah Palin, but she also just looked so much like her that you're like, oh my goodness.
My favorite was always George H.W. Bush. I used to, as a child, not gonna do it, wouldn't be prudent at this juncture. It's bad. 1,000 points
I did
away.
not know he was going to do that.
That was my favorite. So, anyway.
In the moment when they meet each other, it's
I know, it's great. And some people took it very well. Most took it with a grain of salt, and they were good sports about it. Maybe not everyone.
It is that like kind of Twilight Zone place where it's like, okay, it's okay to laugh about this. Yeah, love it. Great job, Joe. Get your popcorn ready. The weekend's almost here.
And we're going to break down everything new in the world of entertainment you simply can't miss. That's next.
Welcome back. We'll end this hour with something fun. It's Friday, which means it's time for your weekly can't miss list.
That's right. We've got the roundup of all the films and shows you need to see this weekend.
Of course we do. And joining us is TV personality and host of the Baker Show podcast, friend of the show, Baker Machado. Baker, good morning.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Happy Halloween just passed. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Yes, exactly right. Carrie loves this moment already.
To start saying that to everyone, everywhere I go. Good morning. Okay, so let's start on this movie, A Real Pain. I understand it's even getting Oscar buzz already. Super early.
It is indeed. Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin are in this one. Kieran Culkin specifically getting the Oscar buzz here. Jesse Eisenberg wrote and directed this film. This is about two cousins who go on a Holocaust tour of Poland after their grandmother dies. And as I mentioned, Kieran Culkin is like getting incredible reviews over this. And by the way, the film deals with grief, sadness, but it's also a comedy. It's also really funny as well. Now, interestingly, Kieran Culkin almost didn't appear in this movie because of the timing of when they were filming this didn't align when Succession was just filming and ending. So interestingly, the production company that did this is Emma Stone's production company. She had to call Kieran Culkin personally to convince him to stay on the film. So if Kieran Culkin wins an Oscar, it's because of Emma Stone. Yeah, isn't that wild?
Plus, he got the Emmy for Succession this year, so it could be a good year for him.
Inside story. Emma Stone just seems so cool. How can you say no?
I know, right? If Emma Stone's calling, you're like, I gotta take this.
Okay. It's a yes.
All right, let's talk about Blitz, which is a period piece set in Europe during World War II, also getting good reviews.
Yeah, and it's because of a 12-year-old that is getting most of the great reviews and all of this. So Steve McQueen, who famously directed the film 12 Years a Slave, he's back with this story of the German bombing of London during World War II. Saoirse Ronan plays the mother in this. She basically is putting her child on an escape route on a train to get out of London while the bombing is happening. He gets off the train and tries to go back to go find his mom. And as I mentioned, this 11-year-old boy, Elliot Heffernan, getting incredible reviews. Critics loving this film. It's in theaters right now, guys, until November the 22nd, and then it's going on Apple TV Plus right after that.
All right, love that. Okay, also streaming, we've got Kerry Russell back in The Diplomat for season 2. I haven't seen this. It's been on my watch list for a long time, starting with season 1, I mean. So, but everybody's so excited about this season.
If you love season 1, you're going to love season 2. It picks up immediately after that crazy cliffhanger that we got in season 1, where Kerry Russell's husband is involved in this giant car explosion. So it picks up immediately right where that's at. And the big question is always, is Kerry Russell going to become the vice president? Well, currently in this season, Allison Janney is the vice president. It's giving you major West Wing vibes in this. Yes, so it's giving you, if you love the political thriller, you're going to love this. And again, if you love season 1, Son of the Diplomat. You're definitely going to love this. This is on Netflix right now for you.
If you haven't seen season 1 like me, I think those were a lot of spoilers.
Just enough, but I gave you just a little bit, not a ton of spoilers.
We're just starting season 2.
No, I know.
I didn't say she got the vice presidency, so.
There's a new limited series called The Passenger, open New York Comic-Con. What should we know?
People were loving this at Comic-Con. Lines around the block for this over at Comic-Con. All 6 episodes dropping on BritBox. Also, it's on Prime as well. This show is set in a fictional northern English town where an ex-police officer is investigating a string of weird and interesting crimes that continue to happen in this small town. Fairly good reviews, especially if you love a good British drama that involves some crime. So definitely go watch that over on BritBox and on Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. Okay, I'm like, what's BritBox? Okay, you can see it on Amazon Prime. I'm like, another one I need to pay for.
BritBox.
Well, I'm behind the times, I guess, but I'm not paying for another streaming service, no matter how great it is. You just saw Martha. We were just talking about it a minute ago. We know how Martha feels about Martha. How do you feel about Martha?
Guys, I cannot stop talking about Martha.
Yeah,
I'm obsessed with it, especially if you were a big fan of her, Ina Garten, anybody that's in the cooking world. You just have a newfound respect for Martha Stewart. And as you mentioned, she's not necessarily a fan of her own documentary. So Oscar-nominated director and documentarian R.J. Cutler took a look at the life of Martha Stewart, and she gave him unfettered access to every aspect of her life. And Martha, who is a perfectionist, she admits this in the documentary, not happy with some of the aspects of this. Most of this is about camera angles. She doesn't like the music and stuff like this. But this is a great story of female empowerment and going through horrors to successes and then basically coming out on top at the end of the day. It's amazing. You have to watch it.
And now Martha's coming after you. We only have 15 seconds. So just John Williams, a legend, documentary.
It's on Disney Plus. It goes through the entire life of the man who's given us every amazing song through every amazing film that you've seen. By the way, he's only 5 Oscars away from Walt Disney from the most nominated person of all time.
Yeah, well over 50,
Yeah,
right?
54.
So he is truly like probably the greatest
At
musician of our
91 years
time.
young, too.
I know. Amazing. All right.
Baker.
Thank you, Baker.
Always
Thanks,
great to
guys.
see you.
That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
The news continues right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.